So the thing about YDP, You Decide podcast, the whole idea behind it was, or is, to get perspective. So one thing we believe here is like, everyone has a perspective and everyone's entitled to an opinion. And we've talked a lot about friendships, surrounding yourself with good people, dealing with adversity, mental health, all those sorts of things. And so, today's chat is really just about getting to know you and what you bring. Obviously, I'm joined by the usual guest, usual host, Asa and Jeff, but we have a very special guest today. Erikana, is Kana okay?
Yeah.
Kana's fine. Erikana Pederson, Kana, our first ever female guest on YDP. We're really, really privileged and honoured to have you here. So thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
Eesh.
Beauty.
Someone should jump in here right now with a bio. This would be like. Do you reckon this is the perfect place to?
Okay. Another week kick to the back. Joining the production team, but New Zealand Fijian mid-quarter, part of the New Zealand under-21s netball world champions in 2013. Started her senior league netball career with the Northern Mystics before moving to Christchurch to join the Mainland Tactix. Was included in the Silver Ferns development squads in 2016, 17 and 2018 before making her debut against Jamaica in 2018. Stepped away from the game in 2021 but made a brief comeback last year for the Central Post. What a season they had. Minor premiers and ANZ champions. A proud Mount Albert Grammar School alum.
Oh, you poor thing.
Mags being the second best netball school out these ways, behind the one and only Emdale College.
Let's go.
Business school graduate, daughter of a legend out west, more specifically in Kelston.
I thought so.
A sister and a great friend of the show. Welcome to the pod, Erikana Pederson.
Let's go.
Okay, plot twist. Quick plot twist. Okay, there was a lie in the bio.
What?
There was a lie in the bio, and I sent this bio out. I sent the proper one out this week for you to do your research.
No, I heard it.
And I need you to pick up on the lie. What was the lie?
You said Max was the second best, third best. Definitely third. Come on. Get out of here with that.
Find the lie, boys. Find the lie. And it's nothing to do with Mags and everything.
It's the debut against Jamaica, eh?
Please tell. Who did she debut against?
She debuted against Australia.
Hey. And what year, Jeff?
Do my research.
Yeah, see, read up on the script.
That's unfair. He can't read. Sis, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Just working. Work at Drug Free Sport New Zealand.
Nice.
Play a little bit of club netball as well.
Oh,
On the Shore and Auckland Netball Centre. So, yeah.
How has that change been from, because you spent like a large part of your life recently as a professional athlete. Did you find it kind of weird transitioning back into like the 9-to-5 gigs?
Yeah, well, I'd never had a 9-to-5 job.
Yep.
Like since high school, I went straight into ANZ.
Yeah.
So honestly, it was a bit of a shock to the system. And I thought it'd be easy, but it was hard.
Oh, welcome to our lives.
Like, I don't know how people wake up and do their own training or, go for walks before work and then come home, cook their dinner. Like, that was hard.
Yeah.
Does that give you a different perspective on your career? Like, I know a lot of people say, being a professional, it is tough. But doing a 9-to-5 job, like what you were saying, is also just as hard. Does that make you appreciate netball a little bit more, in a sense?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I came out of it feeling real privileged to have been able to be, like, a professional athlete, I guess. Right. But it made me appreciate my parents as well. Like, them working a 9-to-5 job and then coming home to, like, look after the kids, drop the kids off to trainings, pick them up, like, that was eye-opening for me, I reckon.
Right.
Yeah, I think family's a good starting point, actually, for us. Now, obviously, you end up at the second best school. Wow, Max has pumped out, like, a ton of netball players,
Sure.
But more on that later. But tell us, like, life before Mags, what was Kana or young Kana like? Set the scene for us. Where did you grow up and what was that like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up out west, out in Glen Eden.
GE.
Yeah, Westie at heart. I have like a pretty big family, so I'm the oldest.
Mhm.
And then I've got Mandela, Bonawai, and then twins, Leilani and John Paul, who are 15 at high school. So a bit of a age gap
Yeah.
between Bon and the twins. Dad is Fijian, and he's a teacher at Kelson Boys High School right now. And Mum is Cook Island Danish. So, yeah.
Dropped the
Bit of
ball
a-
on that one. Sorry.
So
Yeah,
interesting
bit of a
mix,
pretty
eh?
solid, yeah.
Bunch of siblings. And my research tells me.
Thanks.
No, like you. So, quite a few athletes in your family and quite an athletic family. Was it competitive growing up?
Yeah, it was pretty competitive. So being the oldest, I felt like I had like high standards for myself. But it got to a point where like Della and Bon were like catching up to me, like physically and like athletically, and that would annoy me. Like, I'd get so angry. But I guess that like kind of pushed me even more. Like even in high school, I'd be waking up at like 5 a.m. to go out and train. Then go to school training, then go to school, come back, do another training session. So I was real competitive in high school,
So so you said, you're getting up 5 a.m, doing your own sort of trainings to get to competitive level of netball. What's it like because obviously we've had Ray and we've had George, they're rugby players. We know what it takes to get to that level. What does it take to get to a level of competition for netball?
I heard some good advice from a silver fern, Jolene Henry, back in the day, and I remember her coming into New Zealand under 21 camp, and she said, if there's like one piece of advice, like make sure you're physically ready once you hit like the big time. Right. So in my head, I just always wanted to be like the fittest I could be, the strongest I could be. So that was kind of like my mindset going into trainings and everything.
Yeah. I'm an older sibling. I'm the elder sibling as well. And I feel often us older siblings have massive responsibility in our families. Can you talk us through if you felt any pressure being the eldest sibling, the fact that they look up to you? Sometimes they look to you for, advice, and even though you're learning, you're going through life as well. And what is it like being the eldest sibling? Because I know that there's a lot of pressure that comes with it.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't know, it just was pretty natural in who I am as a person. Like, I've just always wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
And
that makes two of us.
Yeah. So like my parents they didn't really like put pressure on me or anything, just because I was naturally just so motivated. If anything, I think they were like trying to pull me back from doing so much. Because as I started to train more, I was real injury prone, like back in high school, and that's kind of like continued into like my professional career as well. So yeah, I'd say like being the eldest, I felt like was a privilege, and I loved it.
I like that.
Yeah, Ray was talking about this last week. There's something different about professional athletes, like to have that drive, especially at a young age. Like, I mean, what were you doing when you were in high school?
You know, in the book.
Sorry, no, like, yeah.
Sleeping in, playing video games later.
Yeah, you know, like that's what a typical teenager's doing, kind of. Like, where do you think that drive came from? Was it modeled to you, or did you see someone else do it?
I honestly don't know. I just always felt like a real strong fire.
Yeah.
Like no matter what I didn't have to be like sport, but like if I tried something different, I just wanted to be the best. And it's actually like, I don't know how to put this, but it's real tiring when you just always want to be the best and like what's the next thing to achieve. Like you never enjoy the moment, I feel. So that's something that like I guess as I've grown older, I've like appreciated the little like successes that I've achieved.
No, there's definitely a different mindset to professional athletes, right? I mean, that's why you guys are the top of the 1%, right? And I was just thinking, like, to myself when listening to Ray last week, listening to yourself now, the mentality has to be different, right? It's not like just our everyday person. Talk about what your trainings were like. Talk about, like, did dad help you through your trainings, or were you just have that passion for yourself, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I have to say dad was like my biggest supporter. Like whenever I wanted to go out and like train, he would always be the one to be driving me to places, no matter what time it was. Could have been like 3 a.m. and he would have woken up and like without complaining taken me. So like I really appreciated his role in like who I am today. Trainings, I guess, in secondary schools in year 11, I was in the New Zealand under 21 system. So it was cool because we had a gym that we could go to out in Millennium. So that was 3 times a week. And then I would have netball training every single day. Game on Saturday, and then usually rep tournaments on Sunday. So it's probably why my body got a thrashing, and I probably didn't really learn much about recovery or looking after my body, which I wish I did. Yeah.
So you've kind of said, you know, the work that you've put in secondary school to kind of set you up for, you know, the near future. I just want to tap into your high school journey a little bit, and so. You know, tell us about your schooling teams. How well you guys did. If you guys did you guys win anything, or any notable players that are still playing right now in the league?
What's funny, because I came out of Glen Eden Intermediate and I wanted to go to Avondale at first because all my friends were going there. But my mum and dad were like, oh, there's a netball academy at Mags, and Te Aroha Hakinen, who's like a well-known coach, is there. So I was like, oh, fine, like I'll go to Mags. Ended up trialling in year 9 and made the year 9 A team, but also got pulled into Prems, which was pretty cool because I was playing with the likes of like Portia Woodman, who was year 12 at the time.
She was playing netball?
She was playing netball, Teta Amani, who played for the Mystics as well. So there were some really good players like that I got to play with, and I'm thankful for.
So you're already lining up this pro career at year 9?
I knew at year 9 that like that's where I wanted to be.
Wow.
Yeah. And then so year 9 to year 13 played Prems, Mags, back then anyway, like won Auckland every single year, won Upper North every single year, and we were always in finals at nationals. I think I won 3 nationals out of 5, and then we came second the other 2. So
that puts a downer on it, sis.
You can't lose one.
so yeah, that was pretty cool. Did New Zealand secondary schools when I was year 11, I think, and then year 12 and year 13, and then New Zealand 21s as well. So yeah, it was pretty
So
cool.
you've got a few medals at home?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Humble brag.
And so like you had this awesome secondary school career. And so what was the transition like outside or while leaving Mags and going in? Do you go straight into your pro career?
Yeah, I trialled to be in the Northern Mystics as a training partner. So that was in my year 13 year. But in year 12, I went down with an ankle injury. And I thought it was just a sprain, but it ended up being, I was out for 13 months, had to have 2 surgeries on my ankle. So that was like my first taste of, like a major injury. And when I went into the surgeon, he actually said to me, like, I'm really sorry to tell you, but I don't see you playing competitively netball ever again, because that's how bad the injury was. So I just remember like my whole world felt like it had shattered, because I had always wanted to like make it, and then this moment I was like, whoa, like that was when my dad had always said to me, Erikana, you're only 1 injury away from being nothing. And back then I was like, whoa, like that's a bit harsh.
That's pretty deep.
But what I got from that is like I always needed to have a plan B outside of netball, so that was like important to me.
How did you navigate through that tough injury? You know, hearing the news that you were never going to play again, and then also dealing with the injury at the same time. As a young person, it takes a toll on you, right? How did you navigate through that, and who obviously your dad was there and your mum, but who else was there to support you through that whole journey, and how did you manage to get past that to the next stage of your career?
Yeah, so obviously like my family were like a big part of that, real supportive, but like my friends in high school as well were a really big part in that, because they didn't necessarily play netball, so they didn't see me as like Erikana the netball player. They were just like Erikana the friend. So they treated me normally. Like they were just like, oh well, like tough luck, and kind of made me see the bigger picture about things. So yeah, that was cool.
That's good.
Were you a good student though?
Yeah. I was like,
Because you had to be the best in the class too, eh?
oh, I was like one of those people. Oh, this is embarrassing. Like at lunchtime, I'd go to the library and like study, and my friends would be like, "Where are you?"
Same.
So, yeah. Pretty similar, didn't it?
Yeah.
Athletes and
Did you know where the library was at school?
yeah, I was on my way to the tuck shop.
How good is that? So yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's a bit of like, because you've already been touted as this big talent coming out of high school, and I'm sure you want to live up to that as a 16, 15-year-old, eh? Do you think that you would have been better off had you kind of gone under the radar and then moved into your pro career later on? Because I'm sure there's a bit of spotlight on you already at that time.
I guess like my first year out of high school when I played for the Mystics, that was a shock.
Yep.
And looking back now, I wish I had waited a little bit longer, got my body right, prepared, because I remember the first game, man, I was like heaving. Like that was just a whole nother level from school netball to ANZ. Like I can't even describe the jump. It was massive. So I played pretty poorly like my first year out, and that took a toll on me. Like I was real disappointed in myself, but my parents were like, you're straight out of high school. But I just had this like, nah, I'm going to be the best. And obviously wasn't going to be the best.
So you've come out of school and you've joined the Mystics. You say you know haven't been playing to your best of you say you haven't been playing to the best of your abilities. You know, upon my own research,
researching man.
Upon my own research, I know that netball you kind of only get 1 year contracts. So how do you kind of set yourself up? Like knowing that
I like how you brought this around.
Knowing that am I a chance here to get another contract, or do I have to start looking elsewhere? How did how did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, I guess in my that first year out of high school, I also made the New Zealand under-21 squad for the World Cup. So the ANZ season happened, played pretty poorly, went to World Cup, and I wasn't meant to be starting or anything. Like I was a bench player, but Kayla Johnson now was in my team, and like a week before the tournament started, she went down and did her ACL. And we were in Scotland, and that was kind of like my opening.
Really? Yeah. Thanks, Kayla.
No, that was kind of like my opening to then like be in the starting lineup and be playing consistently. So, got seen again, and
it's really about taking those opportunities, when you're given those. Man, so here's the thing, because I'm thinking like you have this mindset of I want to be the best. You're 18 years old coming out of Mags, and you're playing against like full-grown women who have been doing it for some time as well, eh? How did you deal with that? Because you talked about dealing with the injury, but also like this is a whole season of you not playing to the best of your ability, and you know it. How are you dealing with that, having to turn up to training and then play?
I guess at the same time as this, like I was studying as well. So that was like, for me, was like a good outlet, so that it wasn't so like all about netball all the time. So that was cool. I also got to play with Laura Langman that year. And man, I guess that made me realise the gap between like being where I was and being like a silver fern like great.
Yeah.
Because there were things that she would do that I just like wouldn't even think of.
Yeah.
And it was like the small 1%ers, and I guess like everyone talks about those things. The 1%ers are the important things. So that was real cool to learn off like an icon like her.
Yeah, it sounds so cliche every time you ask a professional athlete, like, what's the difference? And they always say, it's the 1%ers, it's the 1%ers. But it is very true. You know, it's the extra time you take after training. Are you doing extras? What's your recovery like? What's your nutrition like, right? I just want to go back to what you're saying, you know, dealing with the big injury, being told that you weren't able to play again, and then getting the call up to the Mystics. And then you said that you didn't have the best year, but you still got selected for the Silver Ferns. So I don't know how that happened, but talk us through
later on,
talk us through after being called into the World Cups team to replace Kayla. What was it like going forward from there? You know, playing and then that 21 season and then heading on to like the rest of your career.
Yeah, I guess I came away from the World Cup with like that hunger to I've got to get my body in shape and get fitter, get stronger if I want to compete with these like women, because you're right, that was back in the days where New Zealand competed against Australia as well in the ANZ, so it was even harder, like they were smashing us, man. So I went away that pre-season and worked really hard and came back in like better shape the following year.
Do you notice a difference? Because like we watch like you know, sports that are played around the world, and obviously like netball has got a big following here in Australia, but also in the UK, right? Do you notice a difference in the style of play and gameplay, and even maybe in Jamaica and South Africa? Like, can you tell? Yeah,
definitely. So Australia is more, everyone refers to them as like backpacks, because they're literally one-on-one marking you hard. Every ball you're catching, they're contesting it really hard. They're real fast as well. New Zealand's like, I'd say we have an element of that, but we're also more like space marking. So like we're off the body trying to look for intercepts, trying to create those turnovers. But you're right, like the likes of England and Jamaica are like coming up now in the world rankings, and at the recent World Cup as well, they did real well and pushed us as well.
I want to get to your thoughts about Silver Ferns and their latest campaign.
But
before we get there, you had an opportunity at the Mystics. It didn't quite go to plan. I don't think I remember you in a Mystics jersey, to be honest. But you take your talents down to Christchurch and you spend the next sort of 7 years of your life down there. You got your opportunity to make your mark down there. Talk us through, what that was like for you.
Yeah. Well, before heading over to Tactix, I had actually said, like, I'm giving up netball. Like,
so for the third time?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I was kind of like, oh, nah, like, I'm done. Yeah. I just want to study. I'm going to work. And then they called me up and were like, look, we've got this opportunity. Do you want to come and play? And I'd never thought that I'd move away from home because I'm such a homebody.
Yeah.
But moving to Christchurch, man, like that made me grow up.
Yeah.
Because at that age, like mum was still calling up for my doctor's appointments and like still doing my washing.
That's like him now.
It's like still cooking my meals. So I guess when I moved to Christchurch, like I had to grow up fast and like learn how to do those things.
Was it hard to make that decision to leave home? And
it probably took like an hour, and then I was like, nah, I'm going. Because like you said before, I guess opportunities like this like don't come up very often, and I feel like now especially like if opportunities come up, I'll take them like without any second thought. So yeah, it was weird though going to Christchurch. It's different from Auckland, like in terms of like when I went there, I felt like I was the only brown person there. I was like, whoa, this is so like weird. Whereas Auckland is so like diverse, I feel.
Look, Christchurch's got a nice climate about it, and I mean it gets a bad rap I think sometimes, but it is nice down there.
Sorry, I couldn't.
Oh, okay. No, sorry, I'll carry on. Yeah, sorry. I was saying, it's nice down there. So you moved down there. What were you about?
I would have been like 20 at this age,
And so you do a lot of growing up in this time, between between obviously when you're about 20 and what you
Left
about
when I was
20,
like 27.
yeah, 27. So a big part of your life is spent down there. I'm sure you got a lot of good friends down there. And we always talk about like being surrounded by good people.
Yeah.
Was it hard to find those kinds of people down there, or did you have to work hard to start new relationships with people, or did you just have good teammates?
Yeah, it was cool because I had like a couple of girls who I played New Zealand under 21s with already there. So I actually lived with them like when I first went to Christchurch. So it wasn't as big of a shock, I guess. But the girls like Tactix or Christchurch, I feel like you look at the Crusaders, have always been known for their work ethic.
Yeah.
Like they're just real hard workers. Might not have like the best skill, but like they'll work hard. So that was cool being surrounded by people like that. And I felt like physically anyway and mentally that really like helped improve my game.
What's it like? So you've moved down to Christchurch. You're in your early 20s. This is like probably the peak years of our party years, right? How do you?
I don't recall.
How do you? You see your friends up in Auckland there, having the time. How is it for you? Like knowing that my focus is here, the goal's here, but sometimes I just want to come up and sometimes I just want to come and hang out with my friends. How do you sort of navigate through that?
I'm not gonna lie. The first couple of years when I was in Christchurch, like every time I could go back home, I would go back home. Just to like hang out with my friends and kind of like just get that release. Like we'd go out sometimes. So that was cool for me. I guess after those 2 years, I was like, nah, like I've got to take this seriously. Like I'm spending so much time doing this. I want to like reap the rewards of it. Yeah.
When you were down there, did you have any offers from elsewhere that made you consider moving? Because you said that you had friends down there, but you didn't really feel at home, right? Did you ever think of moving elsewhere or just giving it up like what you were saying before, or were you content with being there?
I feel like after the first couple of years I started to call Christchurch my home. So that's when I started living there from like Jan to November and then would go home December. That's how much I loved it there. So things turned for me, and I would almost like when I came back to Auckland, I'd be like, man, I can't wait to go back to Christchurch. And I guess Christchurch for me was like routine. Like I was in a really good routine. When I would come home, it would just be out the window. Like I'd be doing whatever, sleeping in, like missing a training here and there. So Christchurch for me was like my safe place. Like, I'm on track.
So straight away, when you get down there, what's the biggest difference that you find, from the Tactics to the Mystics?
So back then we were called the SE02 Tactics, and people would call us the Easy Beat Tactics because we were like, we couldn't like buy a win. Like we were last on the ladder every single year. I think for like a good solid 4 years, we were like on the bottom. It was bad. So that was probably the biggest difference.
But like in terms of like training regimes and
could you put it down to that? Was it the program, or was it just a bad run?
That's the thing. Like we were such hard trainers. It was just like we'd lose, we'd come to training, and it would just be so much harder to train. But like in terms of work ethic, I would have probably said Tactics. Like we're more hardworking. I guess maybe just like the mix of players or the coaches at the time probably just weren't the right fit for us to like getting better.
Oh, sorry. Can we just double back on this? So I want to ask this before, but is the pool of players in New Zealand small enough that you kind of know everyone?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. You would know everyone, or you would have heard of them. I guess now that I'm older, like young ones coming through, I'm like, oh, who are you?
No, that's where I was going to. It's like, at what point in your career did you look back and go, oh shucks, these guys are pretty good? The young ones coming through.
Probably like in my 5th year in ANZ, so I would have been like 23 at the time, and then you see these like 18-year-olds coming through, and like I guess when they come on court and they play you, they're just like real into it, Like they want to prove a point. They want to be like you should pick
That
me
was
all the time."
you.
And exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, that was me, and like just that energy they
Yeah.
bring. They're real green though, so but yeah, like the up and coming players are mean right now.
Did it keep you on your toes though, as far as like, okay, now I've got to really work? Because
Yeah, because I'd say like at least 2 or 3 players in every team will be like young, like young up and coming players. So there's just constantly players getting fed into these teams like year in, year out.
you know, they say that the best coaches are like good teachers.
Yes.
I can say this, I'm a teacher.
And a coach.
But was there any, or in your experience, what have you found, the qualities of a good coach in your time as a professional netball player?
Yeah, like one stands out, and that's when the coach like treats you as a person before a player. So they care about not just what you do on court, but is everything else like outside of netball going well as well for you. But also like know you and can like push your limits. Like they know each individual and like how they tick. So yeah.
That's cool.
I'm guessing that would have been your coach down at the Tactix. You spent, 7 odd years of your life? with
Yeah.
this coach. So you moved down in there in 2015. You spent a couple of seasons there, and your first couple of seasons aren't going to plan. You say you guys were bottom of the ladder, so to speak. 2018 rolls around, and you get the call up to make your Silver Ferns debut.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through how that came about, and where were you, and
Yeah.
all that jazz?
Yeah. So I had, we'd just finished the season, and it was the best the Tactics had ever done. So we ended up coming third. And at the end of the season, like Silver Ferns and Ferns development squads get announced.
Yep.
And it was the first time in like a while I hadn't been like selected in any of them. So I was like, oh, no, I'm going on holiday. So I actually went to Samoa for like a couple of weeks. And when I was in Samoa, I got an email from the Ferns being like, hey, we've got a camp in a couple of weeks. Can you come along to it?
Yeah.
And in my head, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just there to like fill the numbers kind of thing.
Right.
And in the beginning, I was actually going to say no, just
Yeah.
because I was like, man, I'm been on holiday. Like, I'm not in the best shape. Is it going to be like a bad look if I go in? But I spoke to someone real important to me, and they were like, you need to take this opportunity.
Yeah,
like, this is
yeah.
not going to come around again. So I like quickly found some running shoes, did some running in Samoa, came back and went into camp, and it was probably the hardest camp I've ever been to.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is like a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So I thought high school to ANZ was like a big jump. That ANZ to Ferns was like almost like an even bigger jump, I reckon.
Yeah.
But the first couple of days, like I wasn't training well. And I reckon I was just like overthinking everything. Like I was pushing too hard to like try and make a difference. But at the end of the day, I went home and I was like, no, I'm just going to have fun now. Like,
Yeah.
who cares? Just like enjoy it.
Well,
Yeah.
what do those camps look like, and how do they differ from, say, like an ANZ camp?
Yeah. So Ferns camp are usually like a week long, and you're having like 2 to 3 trainings every day, sometimes games on top of that as well.
Yeah.
And among that, you're also having like meetings. So like 24/7, I feel like you're just constantly your head has
yeah.
to be in it.
Yeah.
Like you can't let it slip or anything.
Yeah.
So it takes like a mental toll on you. By the end of the week, you're like shattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the squads were first announced, you were saying that you didn't get selected. What was that feeling like? Because I know that someone like yourself who puts in hard work, who's bounced back from injuries. You said that you've been selected multiple times in the years past. What was that feeling like not being selected, and then you're like, you know what, stuff this, I'm going to Samoa?
yeah. Man, I was so disappointed. Like, I had felt like I had played well that season. So it was kind of like a stab in the back, I guess, for me. I was just like, oh, okay. But I guess it was like a good thing for me as well, because then this opportunity came up and ended up going to camp, and by the end of the week she was like, oh, you've made the team. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I thought I was getting pranked. I was like, are you sure?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Back to Samoa you go.
Yeah.
And so you made this team, and now you're in camp with all these girls who are elite at the at the position as well. What's it like? You're obviously in camp with these girls. They're your sisters, so to speak, but you're also competing with them as well, trying to get that spot.
Yeah.
How's that? Trying to beat that person in your position, but also try and stay friends with them.
Yeah.
Also going out clubbing with them.
It's weird because I think my mentality changed when I got into that Ferns environment, and I was just trying to be like a sponge and like soak everything in. Like for me, it wasn't like I want to be a starting 7 and I want to get heaps of court time. Like I just wanted to learn heaps.
Yeah.
And almost for me, it was like a stepping stone to then go into ANZ the following year, play well there, and then hopefully like get selected again.
And then so the funny thing is when I was I actually watched the interview you done when you were talking about this, and you said that like you couldn't believe it. You know, how are you kind of dealing with like, oh my gosh, I just got picked, but also like, oh my gosh, I now have to play at this elite level.
Yeah.
Yeah. It honestly didn't really hit me until I was on the plane. So we had to stay over in Auckland until we went to Australia to play. And when I was on the plane, I was just like looking around at all the players I was surrounded by, and I was like, whoa, that was like I've kind of like made it kind of moment, I guess. So yeah, there was like a lot of pressure though, because like your family's obviously real happy for you. Sure. But like I remember telling my dad straight after I got told, and I was like, Dad, you can't tell anyone, like wait till it's released. Like I hang up the phone and a minute later he's like on the family group chat of 100 people like, don't tell anyone, Kana's just made the Ferns. I was like, oh my gosh. So like I had a lot of family like in Fiji and in New Zealand, like just always messaging, like supporting me, which was like a big like, man, I better perform well when I get on there. Yeah.
Sometimes that support can be overwhelming, right? You're saying that there was a massive difference going from high school to ANZ. What was the difference going from ANZ to your debut game? What was the difference between ANZ and international play?
Yeah, I guess like I said before, like your mind, like strength, your mental strength has to be like real strong. Like little details like of a game plan or just like what we're doing every day, like you just have to be switched on and you can't ever let yourself like just fade, I guess. So that was like one thing. The other thing as well is I feel like I got like starstruck because I was playing with like the likes of Maria, Laura, Katrina, and I'd never played with them, just against them. So like then I'm rooming with them and I'm like, whoa, you know, I kind of like forgot what my job was for like moments in the day, just because I was like, my gosh, like Laura Langman's laying on the bed next to me. It was pretty surreal.
So you get on the court and you guys beat Australia. Is there any highlights that you remember from the game and you know, just gameplay in general?
Well, the reason I came on was because Gina, who's a wing attack, had blood on her finger. So she caught time and I had to go on. And I remember running on and being like, don't throw the ball away, don't throw the ball away. Like the first ball I got, I threw the ball away. And I was like, oh, you idiot. And like spent a few minutes on court and Gina got her like hand bandage and I looked at her and she was like, yeah, I'm ready. I was like, yeah, time, get me off. But that was like another big learning for me as well, like that I took into ANZ, like always being prepared on the bench if I am going on and being ready to like just smash it.
It's those opportunities, you just got to be ready, like whenever they pop up you got to be ready. I remember listening to an athlete talk about being in the public eye a lot. It's great because you know the fans are amazing and you know you're loved and adored, but on the other side of it you're also heavily criticized. How was that for you? And you know, obviously being on a team like you said, at the time you guys just couldn't get a win. Were you criticized a bit in the being in the public eye, and how does that sit with you as a person, and how do you deal with it?
I would always read articles like after the game finished. Like I'm one of those people that like look it up straight away and see what they say about me. and then end up hating like the journalist who wrote it. But what I noticed is like my family took it hard as well. And like there were times where like my little brothers or sisters would be like, nah, do you want us to like create a fake account, and we'll like, you know, like the Facebook warriors that would like post or comment things and reply. And at times I wanted to be like, yeah, can you? But I guess like as I grew older, I kind of just took it in my stride, and I was like, I don't really care what you say about me, because you're not the one that matters. I more cared about like what my teammates were saying or what my coaches were saying. So
that's good.
Yeah, even though I still read them, I like it almost motivates me even more. Nice.
No, that's cool, because I mean, you know, coming back to the ANZ, you runner up twice. And then like eventually you got that, you won that chip. What was the feelings like? Because this happened in like a matter of like 3 consecutive years,
Yeah.
What was it like? Because you would have gone like 2 years of like, damn, we're right there, into this like amazing high. What was that like? Finally getting that win, but also having to deal with 2 back-to-back losses. I mean, second's not, you know, like, I mean, second's like really good.
I remember reading it.
Not fair.
I remember reading. I remember reading in the article, and you said, "I'm sick of coming second." Is what you said. And so tell us and talk us through what coming second's like, and then finally, you know, getting.
Yeah, I almost feel like when you come second, like the after party is like worse, because you just want to like forget about it. The first year we made it into the finals, like we got smashed against the Pulse, who I ended up playing for and then winning a chip with, which was pretty cool. Then the second year it was like a close one against the Mystics. So after my second year, that's when I had retired from netball and started kind of working at my job. So the Pulse one was really like a surprise. I never would have thought that I would go back to playing netball for the Pulse, who I hated. Like, they're a team I just hate. Like, and I love to hate them as well. But playing for them, man, that was cool. Like, the coaching was top notch, best coaching I reckon I've ever got. Like playing with different players as well, it was just like, when the final whistle went, it was kind of like relief, like like finally I've like got a chip after 10 years of playing ANZ.
Well, what was the biggest difference in coaching? Because you said that was the best coach you've ever had. What was the biggest difference between that coach and every other coach that you had in the past?
Well, Pulse are known for like Australia, their one-on-one marking. So when a team comes up against Pulse, you're like, oh, it's going to be hard, man. They're going to be on you. And I had never played that style of game before, where it was just like hard one-on-one marking. And on top of that, I'd never really played centre before, which is like physically real hard, man. So I guess it just like, it helped me grow my game a little bit more. They have like a defensive coach, Waimarama Taumanu. She was a Silver Fern and a Silver Ferns defensive coach, and man, I just like everything she'd say, like I'd like hold on to, because it was just like gold.
Talk us through the retirement. I mean, that's a the first one. I mean, at that time, I mean, you're still relatively young, and I'm sure you, like, a lot of people would have looked at that and said, well, you still got a lot of netball in you. What was your thinking going into that, and what led you to that decision?
I guess like a year prior to that, I had gone through like really hard like mental health, which was real difficult. And I guess it kind of just took a toll on me, and it got to the stage like that pre-season of my final year. I remember going home for Easter weekend, and you get given like your training program. And I remember going out and starting it and being like, why am I doing this? And that was the first time in my career where I had asked myself, like, why am I doing this? And that was when I realized, like my heart's just not in this anymore. So I remember like that whole season, I knew straight away that like that was going to be my last year. So I kind of went through that last year being like, oh yeah, cool, I'm just going to enjoy the moment. And then it just ended up leaving after that. And
so you've retired now, and you're in retirement for like 6 months, whatever it is. But you've told that your tactics team, that you're finishing up, you're done, and then they find out in the news that you've signed to the Pulse.
Were they giving you mad?
What's that conversation like with your teammates that you spent 7+ years with? Did they know it was coming?
Side eye.
Or was it just you just pulled the rug from underneath them?
Yeah, I actually, before it got released, I asked my Pulse coach if I could let my tactics coach know, just because courtesy, I wanted her to know. So I remember texting my coach, and she was just like, what the?
Yeah.
Mostly, she thought I had retired, and then going to Pulse, who, I feel like we just have a rivalry against Pulse. And then the girls were hammering me, messaging me once it got released and being like, what the, I can't believe you you're a traitor. Yeah. But they quickly got over it as well, and that first game playing against them was cool.
Yeah.
That was mean. I loved it. Yeah.
Were you telling them all the plays?
Yeah.
Your new team all the plays?
Yeah, I just wanted to beat them.
Yeah.
It's your old team, you want to do well, so yeah, it was cool.
So you're 6 months into your sabbatical. Oh, it's
We'll call it sabbatical.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of a retirement, we'll call it sabbatical. What made you sign with a new team instead of going back to your original team?
Yeah.
What was the thought process between that? Because I know that as a professional athlete, you've got many options, and sometimes fans hate it if you're not loyal. Also, people are like, man, you either should be loyal or, why are you ring chasing? There's a lot of conversations like that. Not necessarily in this situation, but just sports in general, right? Fans get angry when you're not loyal to your team, but then they can also understand if you've been grinding with a team for ages and you don't get over the hump, why you would sign somewhere else. Talk us through that decision. What made you make that decision?
I guess first and foremost, I honestly thought I was done.
Yeah.
When I got the phone call from Pulse, there was no way I thought I was going back. And I initially actually said no. I was real happy with my job. I didn't really want to do that to my job and be like, hey, I know I told you in my interview I'm done with netball, but I'm actually going to go back now. So it wasn't until they called me the second time, and they were like, we really want you, we can do this. And I was like, oh, should I just go back? And again, we said before, it's the opportunities. And I was like, this is cool. So I spoke to my manager at my work, and he fully supported it. And lucky, our board supported it too. And they were so good to me. Let me work part-time from Wellington, and then just go straight back to Auckland after the season into my role. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh man! And then you're going into a new system, under new coaches, and you have new teammates. Was it almost like the first time you probably stepped onto stepped into an ANZ team or court?
It was I was making I was in my rookie year again.
Yeah.
Just because it was a new environment after spending 7 years with the Tactics. They had a different program to what I was used to, and a different city as well. So it was kind of exciting for me. I learned a lot, and it was a new way of doing things. And just honestly just was probably one of the highlights of my life so far going there.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. I'm getting the signal from our production team over here. What do you want? What is it? Well, you're interrupting a good chat over here, buddy.
I've got a this or that for Erikana.
All right.
We just I'm gonna give you a few options. It's gonna be quick fire, just to break the ice a little bit. Then we'll get back to the discussion. Is that what we're doing?
You not shake the ice.
Right. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. That's it. You understand this or that, eh?
Yeah.
It's simple. He'll provide you with two options.
A little heads up would have been nice. Just eating our lollies.
You see what I have to deal with over here? They're eating at the back here.
Production team, man. Honestly.
Yeah, go back. Yes, we have a this or that for Erikana. So how it works is I give you quick fire options, and you just choose one or the other. Cool. Are we ready? Do you wanna? Nah. Nah. You're right. Beach trip or roadie?
Beach trip.
Chocolate or lollies?
Chocolate.
Movies or music?
Ooh, that's tough.
Oh, movies.
Night in or night out?
Night in.
Super Rugby or even RL?
NRL.
Ooh, Pulse or Tactics?
Tactics.
Irene or Maria?
Oh,
Tough.
Maria.
Temapara or Laura Langman?
Oh, that's tough.
Temapara.
Warriors or Blues?
Warriors.
And then my last one, Rugby World Cup 2023, All Blacks or the Flying Fijians?
Flying Fijians.
Let's go. Bonus round.
Fijians.
Wait, bonus round. Here, ready? Cook Islands or Fiji?
Oh.
For a holiday, where you go?
Oh, for a holiday, Cook Island.
Nice.
Raro?
Yeah. That's the only place I've been to, actually, in the Cook Islands.
Is that where Mum's from? Or is she from Aitutaki? Or?
Yeah, she's from Aitutaki, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mina, you've been to Aitutaki, haven't you? Cap.
Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh,
Ooh,
great movie.
Yeah.
love me some Shawshank.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Are we back in? Or?
Yeah, we never left. We're never out, brother.
Discussion, man.
So I want to I just want to come back to this because we skipped it in the timeline because of my mates. But lockdown. You know, the season was in limbo. We didn't know what was going to happen. You know, with you guys, and the year prior, you had done your ACL. Took us through. Obviously, you've missed the whole of 2019, and then 2020. You know, you're coming back, and the season's up in the air. You know, you don't know what's going to happen with you, and so it took us through that whole period of trying to get through lockdown like the rest of us.
Man.
But as an athlete,
Yeah. It's hard because I know lockdown was a real hard time for a lot of people. I'd have to say it was probably one of the most fun times of my life. Lockdown, I was.
Because you were in Auckland.
Yeah, I was in Christchurch with two of the girls I played with, Kimmy and Charlotte, and all of our partners at the time were living with us.
Nice little at the time.
The asterisk
There's
there.
little asterisks there at the time.
So honestly, it was so cool. Monday to Friday we would train. So we had a gym set up in our garage, and we'd all have book-in times. We you just go in. We had a watt bike, weights. So it was mean. And then come Friday, we were on it. Yeah. And the weekend was so much fun. It was a time where we connected with people, our friends, through Zoom and did quizzes and yeah, it was fun, man. I loved it. Yeah.
That's the other side of lockdown, eh? A lot of people, and a lot of people did not like lockdown, and a lot of people struggled through that time. But then there's also the other side. There's some people that I've spoken to that have actually enjoyed it. Like myself, I enjoyed it, but that was just because I was gaming and just staying home. Doing nothing, But I think contrary to what a lot of people say, there actually are a lot of people out there that also enjoyed that part.
Well, that's the amazing thing is that actually Matua Slips had been in lockdown for 4 years before that. No, it's crazy. I hadn't seen or heard from him. And then post-COVID, he turns up to my house. I'm like, my guy.
It's good to have him
It's
back,
amazing.
though,
It's amazing how the world works.
The prodigal son, eh?
So just to go back on it again, you had done your ACL. You had done your ACL. Had you been taking your recovery, your rehab seriously through lockdown to get you ready for the 2021 season?
Yeah, as best as I could, with the equipment I had. I obviously had things that I had to tick off rehab or exercise wise that I did. But you can't lift, you can't do heavy stuff. So it was real controlled stuff, running, just making sure that my fitness was up. So
because I know as an NRL player, when someone does their ACL, that's them out for the year. And you can say that the treatment and the facilities that they get to use is a lot better. it would have taken you a lot longer than a year, right?
Yeah.
So, just...
Yeah, the good thing about like lockdown was it was like at the end of my rehab. So I had done the hard work. This was more just like court stuff. I had to get court ready. So that was like my main focus.
Were you in any contract negotiations, or were you set for the next season coming up? Because I know once people get injured, there's always that looming threat of not being re-signed again. Did you already know going into your rehab that you had a contract secured for the following season? Or?
Nah, and that was like pressure, man.
Yeah.
I remember like not only was I trying to get back, but I was like, are they going to take me again? Like, or is this like a wild card? Like they don't want to take me because I'm injured. And I remember just staying up all night. Like at night, I would just think over and over, like, am I going to get signed? Like, is this the end of my career? And that kind of like spiraled like downhill, man, after that. Yeah.
That's like, oh man, that sucks
Tough,
because like you mentioned before, the 1 year contracts.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
mentioned that.
The 1 year contract.
Yeah, the 1 year contracts. I mean, that must be tough on your your psyche and because you're in the season like that. I mean, you're not even what you would have been 20.
Yeah, it would have been like 25, 26.
25, 26,
Yeah.
thinking that I don't think that there's any other 25 or 26-year-old that's really thinking like, is this over? Because you have that security of like a 2 year, 3 year contract.
Right.
Well, do you know what the thinking is behind a 1 year contract? And
Like, no, not really, to be honest. Like, it's just always been like that. You'll get like the one-off 2 year deal maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of have to be flexible as like an athlete and be like prepared to move.
yeah,
Because you could be in like one city in 1 year and then they don't want you, or you want to move and then be in a completely different city. So like when it comes to working or studying, you have to be just real flexible.
Yeah. Are they trying to change that? Do you guys have a union or that's trying to fight for you guys to get longer contracts?
Yeah.
Because
more security.
yeah, more security, because I can see like the benefit of 1 year contracts is that everyone will work hard, will never get complacent. Whereas Ray was talking last week about signing a 2 year contract for the Moana, and he went into season 1 complacent knowing that he was secured for season 2.
Yeah.
So the benefit of signing 1 year contracts is that you're going to get the best out of everyone because they're all playing for a contract in the following year.
Yeah.
Are they trying to change that for you guys? Because like by the sounds of it, it's kind of unfair.
Yeah.
You're putting in all this effort, you're putting in all this hard work, but you don't know if you're going to get signed the following year, and you don't know if you're going to do your ACL, that game, like, are they trying to change anything about it?
I honestly don't know. And like, you're right, I can see like those negatives. I guess like the one positive I can see like from an athlete's perspective is like, if you're not enjoying it, it's easy to move like the next year.
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
if you want to change, like it's easy. And like, it's interesting because like movement doesn't there's like not a lot of movement that happens from year to year. So like I'd say like half the team at least will stay in the same team, and there might be like a few in every team, but like from year to year it's pretty like consistent, I reckon.
What about on the other side of the board where you could, or maybe on the other side of the ball where maybe in camp there's chats about maybe I want to start a family this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, for women, it's you get pregnant and then you have you have.
Is that how it happens?
You have
Pregnant.
That's the human
But
cycle.
no, like he's right though. Is that something that you have to consider? Obviously, as a
Thank you
female
for stepping in.
in a professional sport, because I mean, for men, obviously, like here's the thing: like physically don't change, and that's something I was listening to the other day, where someone said, there was a netball player who was the best before she got pregnant. And that actually speaks to how massive that is, for females to have to go through that and then come back and try and revive a career.
Yeah. Well, like I can't speak like on my personal,
Yeah.
but like from seeing teammates who have like had babies, it's real hard like to come back. And And the other thing that's real hard is like when you're, I guess, at your peak fertility is like coincides with where your peak like playing. So it's like you have to like be like, oh, which one do I want more? And often like girls will wait and be like, no, I'll just wait. And then other times they'll be like, nah, it's more important to have like kids right now. So I think it depends on like the person's priority.
Right.
But yeah, it's a difficult one and kind of a decision like I've never had to make.
No.
You know, with what you were saying about player movement, you know, sometimes half the team may go. I can imagine as a fan, it'll be hard to like build a solid fan base, because I know a lot of, or especially with the sports that I follow, a lot of fans follow players. So how does netball, because I'm trying to tie this in with a discussion we had earlier in the year about netball dying. It's a dying sport. We had a bit of pushback from it. But I think what we were saying was, you know, we didn't say it out of, you know, any malice or disrespect or anything, but we're just saying that we're just trying to come up with solutions about how netball can get its participation rates back up, can get its viewership back up. But just hearing that these 1-year contracts, it'll be hard for fans to follow players because they're constantly on the move, right? How do you propose netball up their participation rates, get more viewership? What are your views on that?
Basically solve netball's problem.
I'm sorry to
while sitting here on the couch with us, please.
But it's just it was a good discussion at the time, but maybe we didn't elaborate on it properly.
It's actually a good point, because like Netball New Zealand have spoken to us like players about it like over the years, because I guess it's the elephant in the room. Everyone knows that like you look at games and you look at the crowds and honestly like it's poor and it sucks as an athlete as well, like running out to those like types of crowds as well, where there's like 50 100, I don't know, supporters there. So like if you look over at the Australian comp, their supporter base is like real good, like sold out, like thousands of people go and watch them. And I don't know if it's because like every game day is like an event. Like my mate,
Sevens feels right?
Like they have like, I don't know, like a circus outside, like vending machines, whereas you come to our ones and it's not the same energy, I guess. And netball teams are there associated with like rugby team or like an NRL team, sorry. So I don't know if that brings on board like more supporters as well. But
do you feel like, just outside looking in, obviously, do you feel like the Australian product is a little more entertaining? Like so I've watched a couple of games and they have a 2-point shot, right? And that sort of thing is something that entertains the crowd, right? And, you know, players who can drain it from long range. And then I've watched a couple of games this year, the ANZ. It's just not entertaining. Right? And I don't want to sound like the prick, but like you know, I'm you know, like Jeff was saying, we copped a little flack earlier this year. We're just trying to find ways to get more crowd involvement and more numbers and more participation, like Jeff was saying. But
I think what she was saying is make it like an event. Like the I hate to bring up the Warriors, but
you guys have one good season.
Like I hate to bring up the Warriors, but every home game is like an event. Hey, they sell it out every home game, and every home game is like an event. Like they have live music going. Like you know they had fireworks in the last game. I think what Erikana was saying is that there has to be a way for netball to make it like an event, but the only issue is there's not enough. I'm guessing there's not enough funding coming through for that to take place. Whereas in the comps in Australia, they get sold out crowds every game. They're linked with NRL and rugby clubs, so there's also additional sponsorships and funding there. So I'm wondering, like, it's all good and well to try and make it an event, but how do we get more funding into the game? That's the overarching, problem, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with. I think there's a funding issue. I also think that people just need to watch the. Hey, it's the same issue. No, because it's the same issue as with women's rugby too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Super Rugby.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Super Rugby. Don't get me started on that. But it's really like just getting bums on seats.
Yeah.
Like, and if you want to support the kaupapa, if you will, like of women's sports, it's really about getting out and watching the teams play and watching these girls play, because it's not that the product's not any good. We know that that it's elite and world class, but I think it's a matter of actually just getting there and I get the draw cards, there's the draw cards of like bring them in using all these sorts of things, but yeah, it's a tough one, It's a tough one.
It's hard as well, because like I look at Super Rugby, for example, this year, and those crowds, and I feel like they've gone down as well.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Big time.
Like I went to a couple of Blues games, and I was like, this is like a Bunnings Cup game, and even Bunnings Cup and like have decreased in crowds. I'm like, I don't really know what's going on right now.
A lot of people love watching it from home. The comfortability of being in your own house.
Yeah.
You're warm.
Yeah.
There's no admin trying to find your way there and back. So I guess there's also that comfortability factor.
Yeah.
And I think lockdown kind of played a part in that, because prior to that, the crowds were, they were at all-time highs. And then I think a lot of people now are used to being at home, watching things on the screen. And I say that because I'm that person, right? Like every now and then I'll go to a Warriors game. Yeah. But I'd rather watch it from home because you're warm, you got food and
don't
drinks.
Have to deal
there.
with drunk people.
Yeah. So it's actually it's all a lot of the sports, like what you're saying.
Watching from home is obviously a lot easier. Tell me about home though. Tell me about your you mentioned growing up in a competitive household. And you also mentioned an interesting story of how you ended up with your last name. So tell us a bit more about that story and how your dad was a cowboy.
So I am the only one out of my siblings with the last name Pederson, and that's my mum's maiden name. Well, she kind of kept her last name actually. And the rest of my siblings have my dad's last name, Bali Joka Joka. So the reason she kept Pederson, well, for me, was my dad was over in Fiji at the time and had been for months while she was pregnant, and she didn't know if he was going to come back.
Those Fijians, man. Those Fijians.
So she just gave me her last name, and so I feel like often people don't realize that we're siblings, because I would say we don't really look similar. We're all a 50 shades of dark, just different shades. But we are.
That's gold, man. And so tell us about your siblings who are also playing sports as well. You mentioned your younger brother, off the mic, sorry, who was playing, but your other siblings also athletes as well. What kind of sports are they playing in?
Yeah, so Mandela did play college basketball in America. And then I think a couple of years ago he came back and now is working in the mines in Aussie, so he's making good coin there. Bonawai was in under 20s for NRL, and then kind of just had a hiccup, came home, just wanted to find himself again, I guess, and now is playing rugby union. So he's second year playing rugby and loves it. And then we have the twins, Leilani and John Paul. So John Paul is Lani as well as 15, and John Paul plays first 15 for Rosmini. So this is his first year playing rugby, and he loves it. And Lani plays netball as well for their prem team.
Oh, does she feel a bit of pressure to follow Big Sis, or?
Yeah, I reckon. And I'm probably the one that puts the most pressure on her, and just constantly reminding her
5 a.m.
But I also have to my dad always reminds me she might not have the same aspirations,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and she might just want to kind of go on her own pathway. But like I really struggle with that. I'm like, nah, come on, like
Yeah.
you can do it, because I feel like she has heaps of potential. But yeah.
Yeah, the generation now is different. Eh?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
their mindset is they get given everything, right?
Yeah.
Whereas yourself, you worked hard, and I'm not saying that you had the opportunities as well, but you also really worked hard for them. And yeah, like if you were to push your sister, it might break her because because I just know how different they are. Eh?
Yeah.
Some people take that criticism well.
Yeah.
Some people break under that criticism as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just yeah, it's like being an older sibling. You gotta find that right balance of trying to motivate them, but trying to challenge them at the same time. Because I've always had that struggle with my siblings. It's like whenever if I had,
Yeah, it's because they're looking at you, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for
they're
sure.
constantly looking at like, okay, whatever Jeff does is like that's what's expected. Eh?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about you as a young person and being kind of thrusted into the spotlight of being a professional athlete. Did you have to be mindful of? Sorry, can we get some matua tissue? Did you have to be mindful of how you like hold yourself out in the public? Like, we can go around and be idiots, like,
Right.
and no one cares, no one bats an eye. But I feel like, is that something that they talk you through, or is it just expected that you?
Yeah, I think it's just expected that like
Yeah.
you know it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like females, like have common sense like a little bit more, and
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
just like
sure.
we're more like
Yeah.
can't do that. But also like I feel like your family as well. Like you don't embarrass your family when you're in the
Yeah.
spotlight as
Yeah.
well, and that's something like I always think of as well.
And so now that you've like stepped away from the game, you're sort of mentoring your siblings and trying to get them down the path sort of that you've gone and is to go professional. You mentioned earlier that you're playing club club netball now.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest difference coming from ANZ into club level? Is it like
Yeah.
because you would think you're expected to carve up once it should be relatively
Yeah.
an easy level for you.
Mm.
Is it expected of you, or is it
Was it
actually
true?
easy, or?
Yeah.
I feel like it's not said, but probably expected.
Yeah,
Like
right.
if you've played ANZ before, you should be
Yeah.
like,
Carving.
yeah, yeah,
Expectations, eh?
yeah, yeah. It's different though, because like I rock up to my game and like we'll warm up with 10 minutes before the starting time, whereas I would never do that like in ANZ, but that's just like the normal
Yeah.
like for the club team.
Did you have like any sort of pre-game ritual, or was there something that you done all the time? I'm stealing Jeff's question.
Yeah, I
He
like
always
that,
asks
buddy.
that.
Yeah. I used to be real hardcore, like when I was younger, like I wanted to do everything right the same way. And then I just got to a point where I was like, nah, this is, like I'm more flexible with things.
Yeah.
I guess like my food, I'm pretty standard with. So
Yeah.
like breakfast is always oats.
Yeah.
It's real boring, oats and yogurt. My pre-game meal is always pasta and 2 eggs,
Yeah.
which is weird.
Yeah.
Or a toasty as well. But no, I don't have any like rituals. I guess like the music wise, I'm a slow jams kind of person. Like I'm a R&B person, whereas people need like hype. Some
Yeah,
people need
right,
hype.
right,
Nah,
right.
I'm like calm. I just want to be calm.
Give us an example. Like you're on
Yeah.
you're on the bus.
Yeah.
Like, what's playing on your headphones? Like which song and
the
which
go-to
artist? What's the
song?
go-to?
I'm pretty old school. So like Tevin Campbell
Ooh.
will be on my playlist, some Luther
Yeah.
Vandross as well, some Anita Baker. Like I'm really old school.
Yeah.
I take after my parents, I reckon.
Does it like help to calm you a bit, or?
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
it?
the reason I listen to it,
Yeah.
because I'm so like my heart is pounding.
Yeah.
I get like low key anxious as well,
Yeah.
and I feel like if I listen to like hype music, that's almost going to make it worse. for
Yeah,
me.
it's gonna heighten.
Yeah, so I just like to like kind of bring me back down again, and yeah, it's cool. I like my music.
Yeah. You mentioned before that you do coaching. What's that like? We've got a few coaches here ourselves. We've got Steve Kerr. We've got Tana Umaga over there.
We can share notes after this if you like.
Talk
We'll
us
swap
through what
notes.
it's like coaching.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Like, I just came back from Upper North Island Secondary School's netball tournament last week. So it's a tournament from Monday to Friday. And man, it's just, it made me like appreciate coaches a little bit more.
Yeah.
And going through a season, like we lost every game apart from one game. That's hard, like coming back into training week and trying to motivate the girls. And I said to my dad, because my dad's a teacher, and I was like, man, I don't know how you're a teacher, Like, that is so hard, yet so rewarding, though, when you see things like click for them, or like learn something. So, yeah, it was hard.
What age group?
This was high school, so they would have been like year 11 to year 13.
Yeah. But that's what coaching is, though, right? It's you're managing personalities, you're managing people, pretty much. Like, you could give them all the X's and O's, but if you're not looking after them as a person, they might not even execute that game plan, or they're like, oh, I don't even like this coach.
And the thing with that too is, with a lot of those girls, netball might not necessarily be like the thing they want to do. Some of them just do it just because it's fun, and so you're trying to manage that, because obviously you'll see a lot of yourself.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, get up at 5 in the morning, but
Yeah.
they're all doing TikToks. So, you know, I can see how that can be tough on you as well. But you mentioned before that your dad said that it's always good to have a plan B. And yeah, tell us a bit about your plan B and your ideas, or what your thinking was around that, because obviously, like, there's these 1 year contracts happening, injuries happening as well. What was your thinking behind going into to study?
Yeah, well, I guess because Dad's a teacher, like, education was always like really important for us kids. So, like, I guess the pathway I took, like, I went to university, and that's like not for everyone as well. Right. Like, my 2 younger brothers didn't go, but Dad was just like, I just want you to have a plan. That's all. Yeah. Leaving high school, I was real passionate, or I loved accounting, which is why I went down the Bachelor of Commerce degree. But because I was doing it part-time for like 10 years, it took me to get my degree. By the 10th year, I was like, I hate accounting. So I was like, man, that was like kind of a waste of time. But also, like, I'm really happy that I just pushed through it. And have a degree, I guess, a piece of paper at the end of it as well.
Yeah, it is, and that's, I guess that's essentially it. We covered this before as well. And I think the main thing to take away from there is like perseverance, because that's a long time to still want a degree, especially if you're a professional athlete. Like, geez, if I was an athlete, I wouldn't care about anything.
Right. Bo, you got us a question?
I don't have a question, but I do have a speed debate topic. Okay, we talked about
hit us.
We talked about, you mentioned that your dad's a teacher, and so our topic comes from teaching background-ish. And it's couch wars, so we have Aaron and Kana on this side, and we have Jeff and and Chris, and you have about 2-3 minutes to make your arguments, and then we switch on to...
Put your degree to use, please.
and today's topic is, should mobile phones be banned in high school? We're going for Chris and Jeff, and then we're going against Kana and Aaron.
Can you give us like a minute to...
I'll give you a minute to have your drink and gather your thoughts.
That's actually for
Okay, ready? In 3, 2, and 1.
What's the question?
Go again.
Should mobile phones be banned in high school?
Yeah, mobile phones should be banned in high school because, 1, it causes distraction.
Oh, okay.
Number 2, too many TikToks.
Too many.
I see a lot of TikToks of students halfway through their classes
Disgusting.
not listening to you teachers,
Uh-huh.
and they're filming a TikTok at the back.
Yep.
Number 3, on to you, Chris.
You know how I knew we were going to lose when he comes in going, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, just trying to gather my thoughts.
Okay, here we go. I think our device time, okay, this is a huge problem for our young people. They struggle to focus on anything. The attention span is amazing. It's like yours. It's just like this. It's practically nothing. You can't get anything done during the day. I'm telling you. The other thing, oh my gosh, have you seen the creeps online? Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
protect your kids. Okay,
That is very true.
yeah, protect your kids. That's what I'll say. Online safety. Be aware, guys like this.
Is that it?
Nice,
What do you mean
nice.
was
Is
that?
That's pretty good, eh?
Yeah.
Like
Can I-
that's with
And then closing statement.
closing statement. Hit us, Jeff.
Closing statement: phones should be banned
From
because-
schools.
From schools. Phones should be banned from schools because there are creeps out there.
Mm-hmm.
Too many TikTok.
Too many.
Phone screen time is too high. Attention spans are too low, and our kids aren't learning.
Ooh, thank you.
Do you care about kids? Ban phones. There you go.
Okay. Moving over to Erikana
Watch
and
Kana
Aaron.
carry this.
Kinda carry it.
You go.
I'm
You
gonna throw
start
straight
us.
to
You
Ka-
start
When you're
us.
ready.
Go on.
Straight off the bat. First things first.
I'm the realist.
Because I'm the realist. Okay, second thing is, yes, something's happened in class.
Ooh.
My teacher's not doing anything good for me. I need to get in contact with my mum. Or do I have to go all the way to the principal's office to use the phone? No, I pull it straight out. And mum picked me up from school.
Yeah.
I'm having an allergic reaction. Boom! I just saved my own life. Because my teacher thinks that banning my phone is going to benefit me. Yeah, you know? You know how much time I just saved? About 10 minutes to get to the principal's
You just saved your life there, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fact number one. Okay, emergency contact straight away.
What's number
Okay,
two?
yeah.
Pull it out.
Nice.
Number two, just to counter Jeff's TikTok little argument.
Little.
Yeah, little argument.
Okay, good.
A lot of content that I see nowadays is kids having fun on TikTok in school.
Right.
After they finish their homework, they're in the bathroom doing these ones. Right, okay, they're doing this,
They're doing
and,
TikToks and vaping.
and they're earning money. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for the flower.
They're doing that. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they earn
See,
money.
it's all the creeps that are giving to those kids. So ban phones, people.
Stop giving gifts to kids, you creep.
So they're earning a living.
I think we need to give this to Carla.
Nah, he's doing well.
Okay, 30 seconds. 30
Keep
seconds.
going, keep going.
So they're earning a living
Uh-huh.
whilst they're learning.
Yeah.
They can mums, in a pickup of a phone. You
Right.
just call her
Yeah.
if anything needs to go, and then I'm gonna throw it to Kana right now.
No, yeah. I was just going to say I fully support Aaron's discussion there.
I'll total
And
for what
agree.
Aaron said.
Agree.
That was it.
Okay.
Erikana for your closing statement.
That's why phones shouldn't be banned. Yeah.
Great
Okay.
statement.
That was, great debate, guys.
Who won?
Matzel Slips has the final.
Adjudicator, what
has the
what do you
decision.
reckon?
I'm going to have to go with Erikana for the allergic reaction.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to go.
See that,
Are you
Mina?
having a
If you didn't have your phone on you, you would have died just then.
Back to you, Chris.
All right. So, oh man, kind of this has been a really cool chat. And just thinking back on everything we've talked about, you know, you're someone who's really jumped at every opportunity that's been given to you.
Yep.
You know, your story of your family and the dynamic. Growing up in a household full of athletes, I think really helped to drive you, into the heights of, you know, netball here in New Zealand. And it's been an interesting ride for you. You've dealt with some setbacks, and I think you've provided some really cool insight into how our young people, but in particular young girls, can navigate this. It's quite a tricky space. And, you know, your story, I think, has some really, really cool learnings. And I'm sure that, like, for us, there's a lot to take away. And
For
also for all our YDP faithful. But before we do close up, we do want to ask about, you know, what's next for you and where to from here, because I mean you've had quite a long career already. You're still relatively young. You haven't hit 30 like Aaron yet. No, it's fine. 30 is the new 21, bro. But yeah, like what's next for Erikana Pederson? Where does she go to now?
Yeah, well, I'm finishing up actually at Drug Free Sport this Friday. And then heading away to Europe on Sunday for a couple of months.
Nice.
So I've always wanted to travel. Haven't really travelled outside of like Australia.
Yeah.
So this will be cool for me. Travelling by myself as well. And then next year might see me back on the court again. Ooh. Who knows?
Why be exclusive?
So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Make sure you have your phone on you in Europe.
In case you get an allergic reaction.
Wait, did we hear? Is she actually back?
You might be back.
That's the
story you heard? Yep, she might be back.
That's a YDP exclusive then?
No, that's exciting. Well, look, all the best for, you know, your travels. Have fun.
Thanks.
Don't talk to strangers, I think. Especially if they have a moustache. So, you're starting 7, and it needs to be made up of players that you've played with. And I know you've played with some big names, and I want to give you some time to think about it. Yeah. So who would make up your starting 7? Let's start with your goalkeeper.
So goalkeep, I'm gonna put Jane Watson in the Tactics. Goal defence, I'm going to go Casey Corpora, or used to be Casey Williams. Wing defence, I'm going Laura Langman.
Yep, have to.
Centre, I'm going Kimiota Poi, who's one of my good friends as well. Yep, so put her in it. At wing attack, I'm going to put Whitney Souness, who was in the Pulse I played with last year. Goal attack, I'm going to go Tapaya, Salby Rickett, who's in Tactics. And then goal shoot, I'm going to go Maria.
Yeah.
That's my starting 7.
Was Maria like, obviously, again, as a mag student, was she like the gold standard for all the mags girls?
Yeah. Like
what do you mean? She went Linfield?
Yeah. Did she actually? I thought she went to mags.
She didn't do last year.
She did, eh?
Yeah. But
True.
went to Linfield like for the first 4 years. Yeah.
Do they not have a good netball team there?
They have a good anything.
Wow. That was bold productions.
Yeah. Well, he teaches at Avondale College. Do any of you Linfield students catch this guy lacking? Well, look, like I said, again, like the story is of like taking those opportunities and really working hard. And we're just really grateful. Yeah, as you know, for YDP, obviously it's all guys, and our listeners have been begging to get a female on, and so for you to come on and just be so open and candid about your story and your upbringing, we really appreciate it, and we're really excited for whatever the future holds for you. Enjoy your trip. Enjoy your time off, and hopefully we see you back there on the court. Any last thoughts or any last remarks? We'll leave them to you.
No, firstly, thanks for having me. It's been cool getting to know you guys as well and chatting a little bit about my life. But nah, final words, just it's probably like looking back in life. Just like enjoy all the little moments, man. Like I wish I didn't rush through everything. Just enjoy everything. Yeah.
I'm gonna take that. Enjoy the little things.
Good way to
end it. As always, like, subscribe. Find us on Facebook with your mum and dad. Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. Check us out on YouTube. Again, Erikana, thank you so much from all the YDP faithful, all our listeners. And we'll catch you again next week. Peace.
Laters.